what I mean. Got the cake, give me a little piece, a little loving on the side. Got the cake, I need a little piece just to keep me satisfied. Ooh, you're looking good. Ooh, right. You gotta give me down, huh? Yeah. Give me that. It tastes so good, don't pass it all around. Give me that. Cut it down. Got the cake, just a little taste of your sweet love. I got the cake, I don't you know what I can't get enough. I got the cake, want to know that I ain't a greedy man. I got the cake, want you to know that I do the best I can. Oh, it feels so good. Yeah. Oh, I do it, yeah. Yeah. Give me that cake. It tastes so good, don't pass it all around. Give me that cake. Cut it down, cut it down. I want you to give me some sugar now. Tastes like that. Now cook it up. Yeah. Got the cake. I want a little piece. A little bit of the cream. Got the cake. I need a little piece of baby. You know what I mean. I got the cake. Give me a little piece. A little loving on the side. I got the cake. I need a little piece just to keep me satisfied. I like it like that.
It's time for the Bobby Eaton Show, where we tell our stories our way. Turn the volume up. It's the Bobby Eaton Show.
Oh, yeah. Hey, welcome to the Bobby Eaton Show, where we tell our stories our way in the heart of Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921 massacre. That's where we're coming from right now. So if you got a family member, you got a friend, tell them to tune in. You can tune in by KBOB 89.9.com, Facebook Live, KBOB, YouTube. I mean, we just all over the place. iTunes, podcast, iHeart. Just Google all that stuff and tune in. We got a great show going on today. You know, we got Mr. Durrell Bright and Joyce Williams in here. We're going to be talking about House Bill 1775, and how it impacts our educational system. They're going to talk about it and they're going to expose it. And we're just going to be all up on top of this. So keep in mind that this broadcast is recorded, and you can go back and play it back for those who didn't get a chance to see it. They can go back and review it once it's done. Hey, we're taking donations also for the Juice radio station. Now, here's the ways you can donate. You can donate by going to Cash App Juice Radio Show. Juice Radio Show, Cash App them there, or stop by 1533 North Norfolk if you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and drop off your donation. We're trying to always do something for these youth, and the way to do it is have funding where you can do it. So we need your help. We are a community radio station. And what I mean by that, we do more than just talk on the radio. I mean, we have festivals. We do trash community pickups. We pass out backpacks to the community. We raise money for loved ones who can't even bury their loved ones, and we do a whole lot of stuff over there. So that's what it's all about: giving back and helping out the community. We be needing help over here. So if you guys got any ideas of how we can fundraise and make money and invest in to these youth and our youth programs, just let us know. So that's what it is. You can also eat. Let me see. Eaton Media. No. Eaton Music 2 at gmail.com. Again, EATONMUSIC music2 at gmail.com. So, one thing that I like to always talk about on my show before I get started is what you can be doing. You can be volunteering. Now, some of y'all just sitting on your dusties out there and you're not doing anything and you're not getting out in the community where you could take at least a minimum of a couple of hours a week to join up with organizations to mentor young people and senior citizens and help them. Guys, if you know Miss Johnson's yard is high grass, man, take a lawnmower over there, knock it out right quick. Boom, just knock it out. Ladies, go in the house, help her out. If she needs some vacuuming done or something like that, help her out. Mentor some single parent moms, children, single boys, and things like that. Get them to, go pick them up, put a lawnmower behind them or something, a hammer, a nail or something, and show them that that's the way we used to do, and we used to do it all the time and do it well. We've got to get back to that Black Wall Street way of life, in our community. We got a lot of gentrification taking place all the time. You're seeing new development take place here in North Tulsa and in your community where you live. If you're listening to this broadcast, things are happening, and they're coming back into the underserved communities, building this, building that, and building. We need to start building something and building this and building that. But that's what we need to do. Well, we're gonna get into it, and I want you to dial the number 646-716-5525. Don't forget to press that one button. Got to press that one button because Daryl and Miss Joyce is in the house. So we're gonna be right back. So stick around.
If you're driving through the country on a lazy afternoon, or you're watching your children playing after school, they seem to be so unaware of. I know the things that they'll soon have to take care of. We've got to do something, yeah, to save the children. Soon it will be their turns to try and save the world. Right now they seem to play such a small part of the things that they'll soon be right at the heart of. My little Tommy, he said he wants to be a fireman.
All right. Hey, we're back on the Bobby Eaton Show where we tell our stories our way. And boy, do I have some great people, I feel like, in the studio. Daryl Bright, how we doing, man?
I'm doing well, old man. Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you.
Lovely Miss Joyce Williams. How we doing there, lady?
Hey, I am. I have no complaints. As I
Yes.
told you earlier, I'm still walking, still doing what I need to do. So hey,
Just doing what you got to do, huh?
still vertical
Make
and
it doing what we got to do. We got some issues going on, huh? With House Bill 1775, right?
oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, they got some
Yes.
big time issues. But
Yes.
before we get into that,
Uh-huh.
tell our
Yes.
audience, and for those who don't know who you are, where you're from,
Okay.
and where you was born and raised, and family, and all that kind of stuff. We're gonna get into that right quick.
Well, I'm Daryl Bright. Been in Tulsa now over 40 years, so I'm a Tulsan.
Yeah, you a Tulsan.
I'm a Tulsan.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Moved here from Jersey City, uh, and born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. And anybody knows Chicago, that's an experience.
Oh, it
It
is
is
an experience.
experience. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, and the culture too is great. Moved to Tulsa in October 1980.
Okay.
Got involved. Have always been involved in unions. When I came, I was working in a union and shop steward, and eventually I wandered out. I didn't know anybody here. My wife was from here. She went to Burroughs. Graduated from Central when it was downtown. And in about 1987, the superintendent of schools here, Dr. Zinke, said, well, I'm going to start closing down schools, consolidating schools. That's a nice word for saying closing. And I just invited myself into some meetings and sat down. And out of that, Citizens United for a Better Education came about in November 1987. But it had been around in 1977 when they were having racial strife and issues at Old Central. And it was 10 years. He came back again because we were dealing with the same issues and more. And we worked with NAACP, and the rest is really history because we've been at the board meetings. We've written about a 400-page document reinventing the academic experiences for African American children. We have a 161-page chronology from 1954 to 2013 that shows what has not worked for our children. 161 pages. And I've been a mentor in schools. I coached football down to North maybe for 32 years. I've got a leadership team over at Burroughs, but pre-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been very much involved in schools ever since.
Great.
I've
a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work, but good work.
Good work.
Yeah,
What they say,
good trouble. Getting in good trouble, doing good work.
Yeah.
Yes, but our struggle is still prevalent, still needed,
It continues.
and it continues.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely continues.
Mm-hmm.
And what we'll be talking about today is just a codification
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
of what has probably been out as just talk, but now it is becoming part of
Right.
the system
Mm-hmm.
in a more brutal way than we've ever known before.
Okay. Miss Joyce,
Oh yeah.
what's going on with you? Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I came to the state. I'm Joyce Smith Williams, and I'm born and raised in Washington, D.C., right at the base of Frederick Douglass's mansion. My family have been social activists forever, and as a small um, child, I was at first dragged into that, but I guess been indoctrinated all my life for that. Came to Oklahoma going to Langston University. I was in press with um, Dr. William H. Hale, who brought so much life to that university. He had his issues, don't get it wrong, but he brought so much life to that university. And um, I came there indoctrinated already into the Black movement. I had been involved with the Panthers. I had also, just like I said, been a community activist. Grew up going in and out of Frederick Douglass's house that was just there with caregivers in it, at the time. So I kind of knew some of the importance of things, and it was important that I know my history, for my family's orientation uh, of us as children. And so I came to Tulsa after getting married, and I was here for a brief period. Had my first son here, and went to back to school to finish because I had taken a break from school. Went back to Langston to finish after I had been working at a with an organization, and they were pretty good people to me. I must say they really were pretty good to me. They wanted to teach me how to draft and all of that, but my spirit was in sociology, and I had to get back to that. So I went back to school, finished there, went to KU, finished there, went to Denver, lived in Denver for a year, came back, and I've been here. So I've been actively engaged in this system here and pretty much questioning. One of my first associations when I got back was to run into, well, before I got back, someone had brought J. Homer Johnson out to Langston to speak. And I said, oh, okay, he's talking my talk.
Right.
We going to be okay. So when I came to Tulsa, I made a connection with him and tried to get engaged in some of the things that he was doing, especially when he was running for office and doing various things. But I came here somewhat puzzled because it seemed like the community kind of thought that they had it made, and there was a differential in the way people looked at one segment of their own community versus the other. There was some elitism here, and don't get me wrong, because you had that in D.C. too, but
Mhm.
it was just because this system here was so closed, it was more personified. But there were issues that had to be addressed, and I just found myself early on questioning and speaking up, and I linked up with Lacey Park early on when Miss Vanita Lucky Thompson was there, and trying to get some things done. So we
Yeah.
linked up there, and I've been I worked for the state in adult protective services for over 30 years because I have a passion for elderly and disabled people. I have a passion for the children, but those elderly disabled people were most neglected, um, because you had children's protective services that looked out for children, but were seeing that elderly people were just being left out there. So I did what I did then, retired, and 1 week after retiring, I'm not the type that can just sit down. I immediately went to my neighborhood school, which was Burroughs, and started volunteering
Mhm.
and hooked up with Daryl, and
Mhm.
and basically the rest is history.
Yes. You know, I'd be remiss if I hadn't said that Homer Johnson had an impact on me
Yeah,
when I
Well, I
first
think
got here.
I think Homer had an
Oh my
impact on
goodness!
everybody.
And I
yeah,
look at
Hmm.
Brother Cooper
yeah,
in his radio station.
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, we sure
Yeah.
did. And just looking at Maxine Johnson.
Hmm.
Oh
yes.
Oh yeah,
yes,
those.
oh
Oh,
yes.
When you sit back and you look at these iconic
oh,
community people
Hmm.
like Homer, Maxine
Harry
Johnson,
Cooper.
Harry Cooper, my
Yeah,
dad,
your
yeah,
Bobby
dad,
Eaton,
yeah.
Bobby Eaton.
senior,
Yes,
and
senior.
Mm.
the
Yeah.
Ray Freemans and
Oh
Oh
eh,
yes,
God.
and
yes.
and the Percy Perrys and
Oh
all
yeah.
of
All
them
them.
were just. I mean, just even the women, Charlesetta Salters,
Uh-huh.
Right.
and Shirley Scoggins, and
Yeah, all of
I could go
that.
on
Yeah.
and on and on because I used to see these people all
Right.
the time in the community.
Hmm.
They would put out fires by themselves. They wouldn't have to call the police. When
Oh.
Yes.
something was going on down the street, they ride down there and just put it
Yeah.
out, and boom, it's
Mm.
all over with.
I hear
Yeah,
you.
Lorraine Haynes
Lorraine
Yes.
and
Haynes,
Tina
yeah.
C. Perriman,
Oh,
all of,
come
Yeah.
on.
oh, Miss Vera Pittman. Can you remember how
Miss Pittman. Oh
Miss
man,
Vera Pittman handled Jim Inhofe? He
yeah.
didn't know what to do with her. she wouldn't call him in hall. She'd call him in hole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can remember one time Homer Johnson and my dad went down to Mayor Hughley's office, and he wasn't in his office, but they went in his office as he was away. Homer put his feet up on
The
Hughley's
desk.
desk.
Oh, my
You know what I mean? That's how hard. That's why how the men were. You know what I mean? And they would
And,
they would do some things
That's
like
right.
that. You
yeah,
know.
and you can't leave out Don Ross.
Oh, Don
either.
Ross was in there too as well.
And
Yeah.
Julius Piggies.
Piggies.
Yeah,
at the
Julius
time.
Piggies and
Yeah.
Don Ross and all of them were there.
And Harry,
right.
if you
And-
talk about Don, you can't leave Harry out.
That's
You
right.
can't leave.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Joyce, what was the name of the sister that worked on the South End that organized
Della Shaw.
Della Shaw?
Oh,
And
Miss Della.
Miss
Yeah,
Della.
I know Miss
Yeah.
Della very
Miss
well.
Della organized.
I know her very well.
Yes.
You know what I mean. So we had a whole lot of iconic community people
Yes.
coming in and doing work. WORK. They would do work in the community.
And
Yeah.
and Bobby, you can't leave out
Who?
the Black Experience bookstore over there on Apache.
Oh yeah, right on Apache.
They kept that material coming in. I mean, they kept the real stuff coming in.
They did.
Not these romantic novels that you see
Okay.
most places. Even and I like a novel. Don't get me. Octavia Butler is hey.
Oh yeah, all of them.
All of these
Yes.
folks. They make the stuff real.
And that's
but,
what made up your community.
Mhm.
And your community was strong because think about it, integration hadn't came in yet to divide it. See,
Right.
integration really didn't do us a lot of good.
It wasn't intended
No, it
to.
wasn't.
No, it wasn't
Yeah,
intended to.
it wasn't
First of all,
So
you
it
didn't.
divided us all up.
But you didn't. You have yet to have integration.
Yeah, right. It's
Now
no,
you can go spend your money with somebody,
Mhm.
but you ain't
living like
getting
that.
the same
You ain't
return.
getting the same thing.
You ain't getting the same thing.
Well.
And I'd be remiss if I left out Greg Robinson too.
Yeah,
because
Greg Senior.
Senior.
Yeah.
Senior.
Greg
Senior.
Robinson
Yes.
Senior.
Yeah, he was one of the troopers that was
Yes.
involved as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a lot of them. Bob Goodman was around talking,
Yeah.
Goodwin,
you know,
yeah.
and we had a whole lot
That's
of
right.
influence. We could go on and on and on.
That's
You know, with these
Ed,
names.
Ed
Yeah,
Goodwin,
Ed Goodwin.
Ed Goodwin.
Alquita Goodwin.
All the good ones. Those good ones were involved.
Alquita.
They were involved in a struggle and a movement, and they understood what it was like to stand on the shoulders of those who came before them.
Right.
So
Right.
they understood that concept. You know, we got to get back to that concept.
Right.
And if since we're talking about education, I can't. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring in Art Williams Senior.
Oh,
Yes.
man! You
Yes.
know what?
The iconic.
The iconic bald head Art Williams Senior, 6 foot something man. You know, oh my goodness. You know what he did? I played football over at Marion Anderson, right? I was a wide receiver, and he used to be refereeing. He said, Eaton, move back a little bit so you won't be offside. And he's a referee. I worked inside school service in 6 hour for Art Williams. And kids would come in there, Bobby, can you stamp me a pass to go back to class when he wasn't around? Because they knew he did not play. He didn't play. He would tighten you up. He would do. I'm going to tell you a little story before we get through. I was in Big Ben McKinney's class, which he was a tailor. And we were cutting up in Big Ben's class, me and Tukey Washington. So Big Ben say, you boys need to go on down there on Greenwood and get a head start. You know what I mean? And all of that, what he was saying, you know. And he sent us to Art, Big A's counseling. Dean, you know, we went in there and he say, Eaton, what you doing in here? I said, well, Big Ben sent, and I gave him a little note.
Yeah.
And he said, Washington, what you doing? I know both of y'all's mamas and daddies and families. Y'all come on, go with me. He took us in the janitor's closet. You know what I mean? And he took a board off. He took a paddle off the thing, a big old paddle, and he handed it to me. He said, Eaton, tighten up Washington. So Washington bent over, and I took that paddle and I said, pow. I said, he my friend. I ain't going to give him too much. And I gave him a little pat, like, pow. He said, no, Eaton. And he grabbed me and took the board and he said, pow. He told me up. I said, ooh. And he handed it back. He handed it back to me. And I took Washington. I said, pow. I told him up. He said, that's what I'm talking about. He was clapping. but we was beating each other to death off in there, you know. But
Yes.
but he was such an iconic, great
Yes.
man. I got so many stories. Art Williams, Senior.
Yes.
That's Senior now, because
Yes.
both of them are iconic men.
That's
So
right. That's right.
yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
anyway, let me stop for telling all these stories and stuff. Let's get into House Bill 1775. And
Yes.
what's it, first of all, what's it all about?
Well, let me start off by saying, first of all, you know, it's a shame when people are so afraid of their history and the telling of their history that they have to do everything they can to keep that from the true story from being told.
Mm-hmm.
So that basic statement is the basis for the evolution of 1775. Now, in the process of that, all you could hear for a while, all we've heard early in the summer or in late spring was critical race theory. Everybody's talking about critical race theory. We ain't having no critical race theory. And
Mm-hmm.
you hear people mention that without even understanding exactly what critical race theory has been or how it even came about.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes. You know, critical race theory is
Okay.
in this case has been used to sell the public a bill of goods,
yeah,
so to speak. Because critical race theory, as we'll go through this, has nothing to do with
House
House Bill 1775.
Yeah. See, because what critical race theory does is to examine the relationship between race, racism, and power.
Mm-hmm.
It questions the foundation. So if we're going to talk about it, it starts out looking at this whole theory of equality. And equality more or less says that everybody has the same worth.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has humanity,
Right.
which that's we haven't seen no demonstration of that
That's for
yet.
sure.
Talking about
And then
humanity, right?
right,
Mm-hmm.
right, and then it talks about legal reasoning. How the language of the law,
Mm-hmm.
how the law is used in uh, uh, being interpreted for anybody, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So
Yes.
we haven't seen that yet either. And then it talks about enlightenment, which is that people use logic to come up with their decisions, which how I am, and I read everything in the world I can get my hands on. But when you and I'm not going to go down the rabbit trail, but when you get into the whole discussion of logic, you have to go back to looking at these Greeks and so forth who actually got stuff from Africans, but nonetheless, we know that people don't use logic in coming up with decisions. They basically use feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, feelings. And then it looks at this premise that um, the law is a neutral uh, instrument of the Constitution. And we know just from the various entities in the Constitution that bill was written by white land owning
Mm-hmm.
rich men,
Mm-hmm.
you
Period.
know, who wanted to maintain their power and control.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it looked at, and it evolved. The CRT evolved simultaneously during the 70s when you had actually before the 70s
Yes.
in the
By
the
60s,
50s and
50s, 60s,
60s,
and
60s
70s.
and
Yeah, and
70s
'70s.
as the civil rights movement
Mm-hmm.
was going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and the brothers started out, and they refer to them in some uh, literature as being men of color. Now, I'm not quite sure, but but it started and it did exactly what she said. It was a question of, look, how did we get into a position where we got all this legal legislation, acts, etc. And now we're looking at going backwards in the 60s and 70s and how that was being uh, pulled back, and even the programs. And so the brothers took a scholarly look at what that meant. And they looked at the Constitution, and they looked at jurisprudence, how it's used in the courtrooms and that kind of thing. But they were looking at that in the terms of how all these legal positions and laws, etc., have not served us.
No.
Has not, but it kept those in power in power. So it has nothing to do with not what they have in HB 1775, was they've got 8 principles talking about, well, we can't use this, because people may be uncomfortable. We can't talk about history because it may cause anguish. It may bring up guilt feelings. And it also, you cannot say that one race was superior to another. Now, that's not our talk, and we don't have the time to go through all 8 of the principles. But when you look at it, you must look at it. Who are they talking about? They're not talking about us.
They're talking about them
Themselves.
and the power structure. And see, that's
themselves.
The critical race theory asserts that racism is so ordinary, it's normal science, and it's so common in just the usual manner of conducting business that it's hard because it's so normal. It's hard to, you can't acknowledge, or you can't address something that you don't acknowledge, and it's so normal and so ingrained into everything until it's not.
Yeah.
It's not there.
I had to correct some people today about racism. Racism, in order to be a racist, you have to have a control over a race.
You have to have power.
Power. You got to have power. And some people some of us African Americans say, well, hey, I'm not racist. Yes, I am racist. You got to have power, man.
You got to have power.
You
got
know,
no power.
we ain't got no power over. Well, we only like 13% of the United States of America. Think about that. Those numbers right there. When you deal with facts,
Bobby, I can say I hate you, I hate you, I hate you.
Yeah.
But can I control your employment?
No, you can't.
Can I determine what school you go to?
You can't.
Can I determine if you can get a loan for a house?
You don't have that power.
Can I determine if there's going to be a grocery store in your neighborhood?
Right.
That
well, see, and that's where the educational part comes in, of us being educated about our culture and where we come from and who we are and where to go. And because, see, I think my generation, this is how I feel. I think my generation kind of dropped the ball, and why I say that is because my dad and Homer and all of them were warriors during a time when there was the SCLC, NAACP, Urban League. You had the Panthers, you had Malcolm, you had Martin, you had all of these organizations fighting. They were different, but they were fighting for a common cause.
Nick,
Yeah, but we just kind of dropped the ball because we jumped in the Soul Train and all of this other stuff,
what we did,
which caused us to be able to not look at the prize anymore. Because after Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, James Brown, Afros, and all of that right there, we were proud people in our community. We would help each other. We wouldn't just talk about our legislative people and our elected officials and all of it. We wouldn't gossip and talk like that. Right. It wasn't
Bobby,
just like that.
What you have to understand is this.
I understand.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that to you, but
I'm
talking to everybody.
Okay.
What we have to understand is that we depended on each other. We had a closed system, and we depended on each other.
We were community.
And we were in fact a community. What we don't understand, what we didn't understand, what we still don't understand, as it relates to education, is that education is political. And what is the purpose of education? Education is put into place to keep the ruling party in place. So virtually what we have done when we left our system, when E.W. Woods, who was our superintendent, um, got away, and they determined, as Julius Peace told us a while back in one of our sessions, that they ain't never gonna let another one of them back in again. When when that whole system got removed, what we knew about us and our purpose, our movement. See, you have to understand, we are the only group of people in this country that it was illegal to educate. That that in itself speaks volumes about CRT or critical race theory. It was illegal, you know.
Well,
We couldn't do
Well, they
any
didn't
of
even
those.
allow us
that's
to
right.
read.
That's
You know,
right.
you
No, it
couldn't.
was illegal.
It was illegal to
It was
learn how.
illegal.
That
There
was a death. That was a death sentence.
a book was contraband.
Yeah, it was.
A book was contraband. And speaking on that, and not to go any way out to the left, this is Black August, and we have to get into understanding that concept, because everybody wants to talk about Juneteenth, but the truth of the matter is the slaves in Tennessee and Kentucky were not freed until August of 1865, because Lincoln,
Hmm.
who needed Kentucky, did not want to lose them slave owners' votes. So all that knowledge we have
And I'm
been
glad you're
deprived.
sharing it
Right.
because a lot of us don't know
Yeah,
that
You
history.
know,
See, and you got to share the history in order to know how to go forward.
well, see, that's why they're
Hmm.
trying to stop the history.
Hmm. Yeah, that's why you
That's
knock off
why.
the
That's
history.
what. Yeah. That's the push for 1775.
yeah,
Hmm.
Because with those roots and that understanding, that arms you to understand how you got here,
and
the system of racism.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
systemic racism.
and
And but
what did Frederick Douglass say? What uh, what is the 4th of July to a slave? They'll give you a holiday. They gave you Juneteenth now,
yes,
um, to keep you distracted. And they knew
Hmm.
if they gave you
that's
that
right.
holiday and gave you
Well,
alcohol and all that
well,
stuff,
It's a
that's
feel good
well
situation.
that's
That's
very
what it is.
important because we need to just talk about those principles that are in that bill.
The House one
Yes,
seven five
but
seven
let
seven
me
five.
read something here
Okay, go ahead, Daryl.
that talks about CRT scholars sought to expose the limited ability of traditional legal scholarship to adequately reveal how integral racism and racial subordination are in the everyday lives of colored people. You see what they were focusing in on? This does not focus in on it. HB 1775 does not focus on that. And when you talk about one of the CRT major successes in changing the debate about the role of race in America, jurisprudence can be seen in the comparison of the Supreme Court's justification for school desegregation with its rationale for approving affirmative action.
but and also, like I said earlier, CRT is believed to be ordinary, which means racism is difficult to address or cure because it's not knowledge. Racism is believed to advance both the interests of white elites and white working class folk also, and that the critical race social construction thesis holds that race and races are products of social thought and relations.
Hmm.
And what the CRT does is to draw attention to the ways
Mhm.
the dominant society racializes different minority groups,
Mhm.
or at different minority groups at different times
Right.
in response to their shifting needs.
Mhm.
You know,
But
the
that
things with the labor market and
and
other
all that.
stuff.
But you notice
But
what you just said is a theory and a thought process
mhm,
that guides action. It is not a curriculum.
no,
It is not a curriculum that is taught in any school anywhere to the sense that someone has a curriculum that lays out the various and sundry parts of a curriculum.
oh, not even
Yeah,
on the
not even
college,
close.
even on the
The college,
college level.
that's right. That's
Now
right.
when I went to Langston, when I first came here and went to Langston, yes, uh, uh, Dr. Ada Lois Scipio Fisher, Dr. John Coleman, and Dr. Willis Brown, and Elmira Davis, and Mr. Ellis, Dr. Ellis, who was from Tulsa,
Yes.
E. Melvin Tolson, all of those people, all of those people, they did these things. We knew what we were up against during that time frame. But that has, since that time, you're right, Bobby. We came out of school. What did they do? They hired a few of us and gave a few of us some positions. We immediately started buying Nintendos and Ataris and Jordans for kids. Uh, Moved out of the community,
Left the community.
disassociated ourselves.
See, this is what gets me about our community. Grandma's house is there and passed it down. So now she needs a roof, and it's got a hole in the roof. And all of a sudden, everybody in the house decided to move out south, go to Owasso, Broken Arrow, and pay $1,000 a month rent for an apartment
that they have no pay
no
somebody
place.
else's
So
mortgage.
now the city gets it, and they auction it off for pennies on the dollar in the auction, right? So white developers buy it up. They go hire Hispanics to come and remodel it. So they remodel it and bring it back, and then next thing you know, one of them may move in it.
Well, look, it's
I see that all the time.
Yeah.
We give up our property, and it's just, I'm in a struggle right now with our own property right here at Eden Media Services. But hey, what can I do? It is what it is, and it's like this is a community format. I'd hate to see me have to give this up and move somewhere else because of the situation. But we got to stop giving up our stuff.
Yeah.
We just have to.
Yeah.
Well,
but see, that is why critical race theory is necessary in our community, and that is why we can't depend on the school system to teach us that, to work with us on that.
They culturally don't know how we are.
Don't worry, your pretty little head is not happening.
No, it isn't.
So the thing that critical race theory is being something to be a subterfuge that has spawned many, many laws like this across this nation. It is part and parcel
of ALEC.
It's part and parcel of the same thing that's being done with our right to vote.
Yes.
It's all about
ALEC.
power.
ALEC.
And that's that group, the American Legislative Exchange, from the right wing. They have just fill in the blanks. We've got your legislation that you need. But what I was saying is that when we look at this, right, in terms of what it actually does and what it's intended to do, if we look at all the things that are happening now today to seize power and to maintain power in the hands of white men, and that's who's at the top, white folks. And you cannot say that now in the classroom, even though it's real. So when we look at that and we see that the reality out here is that this is just another part of the big lie. Who won who
discovered America?
Wait a minute. Who won? I mean, what they were doing with the big lie, saying that, look, this was corrupt, et cetera, et cetera. We need to change something that's not even broken. This CRT, using it for rationale for HB 1775, is the same thing. You're talking about apples and oranges here, but just because you talk about critical race theory, and it seems as though it's talking about discriminating against white folks.
Yes.
And when you read HB 1775, they are worried about two or three things. Number one, maintaining power. The other, to make sure we don't know our roots. Number three is to make sure that even white folks that may even have a leaning that way get a false education, and still they don't know. Sure. And the other thing at the end is to maintain their power.
And and it's really critical during this time because a lot of us aren't paying attention. But we have to remember this was a census year. So there's going to be some redistricting that we need to be paying attention to. All of these things are going on,
Yes.
which which would have to be addressed. But no, um, this whole idea when they talk about no public school, and a public school means the board of education of a school district, charter school, virtual charter school, or otherwise accredited school. This law applies to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
That's right. That's right.
which is a bit unusual because it seems like right now, and I don't know if it's because maybe we may, I don't know where. I only know about the Deborah Brown program as it speaks now. Langston Hughes is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It is.
maybe there's talk of us establishing our own schools. So this law is a preemptive even on that if they're going to shut you into
Right,
it
right.
and the consequences and so forth. How do you measure uh, what is real? I mean, we sit here, we have had to, like I said a few minutes ago, we have had to all our lives hear that Christopher Columbus discovered America.
Well, you going somewhere else now.
And
So
no,
I
but
know
I'm
that
talking,
truth.
you
know what I mean?
what I
That's that
mean?
false narrative of
But
what they put out
but
there about us. They taught us
so
that in school.
yes, but the fact of the matter is, if I as a teacher bring it to your attention that Christopher Columbus never stepped foot on American soil, and the fact that Christopher Columbus um, even got the maps to get to America from Africa, which he had been in that's a whole
Well, they
other
were thugs
story.
and vagabonds and
And
heathens.
right,
That's what they were.
right, or the fact that the native people were here. How do you discover a land when there are people
People already
already
here.
here?
That's like me
So
coming over your house and discovering your property,
yeah,
and you already got property.
yeah. And I discovered that you got
It's
this camera.
crazy.
I discovered you got that camera up there, and I'm going to claim that
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
part of my
Right,
discovery.
right.
But so as a teacher, and you started raising these issues,
Mm-hmm.
and some child in your classroom um, goes home sad and upset
Yeah.
because the teacher said Christopher Columbus didn't 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 discover America, and the teacher said that there was Native American people here already,
Mm-hmm.
and that basically the
Mm-hmm.
people came in and they have had, they
Right.
talked about the Trail of Tears
Okay.
and you know
Mm-hmm.
and the liability that teacher
Yeah.
addresses. Now, I called today. I called because they have. I called to find out how this law was going to be implemented through the schools and how we would know what the procedures were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I called.
So you call about them?
Yeah, I called Stephanie.
Okay.
Stephanie Andrews. She's the director of student and family support. Um, to find
Okay.
out exactly.
Okay. Before we get back into that, we're gonna take a little break.
Okay.
I gotta pay these bills.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
pay the
what I mean?
bills.
Gotta pay the bills.
Pay the
You know what I
bills.
mean? So we'll be right back with Daryl Bright and Miss Joyce Williams talking about House Bill 1775. You're on the Bobby Eaton Show where we tell our stories our way.
Tulsa Transit is excited to introduce the Route 969 Workforce Express Network. The new Highway 169 Corridor Job Shuttle, WEN, is a fixed route service offering access from North Tulsa and Turley. Stops include Macy's, Amazon, Whirlpool, and Port of Catoosa. Save time and money when you ride the WEN Route 969. And for your protection, buses are cleaned daily. Visit tulsatransit.org for more details.
Advertise in the Tulsa Black-Owned Business Guide. It's a monthly publication reaching all of Oklahoma and beyond, giving exclusive content about your business and many businesses that are connected to you. Full page and half pages are available. Purchase and artwork are due on the 25th of each month. Visit us online right now at www.tulsabobn.com for more details, or email us right now at tulsabobn@gmail.com for pricing.
We're ready for life beyond COVID-19, beyond boundaries. It's time to move beyond, connect beyond, celebrate beyond, live beyond. And the vaccine is our best shot at getting there. Get your free vaccine at vaccinate918.com today. Brought to you by the Tulsa Health Department.
How to order chicken wings. Number 1, find a good wing spot.
I know a wing spot, Max Wings.
Number 2, decide if you want a combo or if you want to order a la carte.
Huh? What's that?
Well, combos come with chicken, veggie sticks, fries, and a drink for a discounted price. A la carte means that you order each item separately.
Okay.
3, decide if you want bone-in, boneless, or cauliflower wings, and then determine the delicious flavor you want on your wings.
I didn't even know cauliflower had wings.
You learn something new every day. Have you been to Max Wings?
Yep.
Max Wings is located at 782 East Pine Street in Tulsa. We're open Monday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Come to Max Wings, home of the dry rub fries.
Last Stop Lawn Maintenance and Landscaping is hiring today. Must have a valid driver's license and must have a 2 years verifiable experience mowing and lawn maintenance with the company. Strict attendance policy is required. Honest, dependable, and team-oriented. No sex offenses or crime against children. Must apply online at www.laststoplawnmaintenance.com. Apply today.
Did you know that sickle cell disease affects people from all races and ethnicities? Sickle cell disease can look like you, and sickle cell disease can look like me. You could carry the sickle cell trait and never even know it. The state of Oklahoma and the supporters of Families with Sickle Cell Disease Incorporated are invested in educating Oklahomans about sickle cell disease and other inherited blood disorders and traits. For more information, visit us at www.oksickleinfo.org.
Last Stop Lawn Maintenance and Landscaping is hiring today. Must have a valid driver's license and must have a 2 years verifiable experience mowing and lawn maintenance with the company. Strict attendance policy is required. Honest, dependable, and team-oriented. No sex offenses or crime against children. Must apply online at www.laststoplawnmaintenance.com. Apply today.
All right. Hey, you're back on the Bobby Eaton Show, where we tell our stories our way out of Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921 massacre. You know, if you need to get in touch with us, if you like to advertise on our station, you can email me at eatonmusic2@gmail.com. Again, that's eatonmusic2@gmail.com. Now, see, I need y'all to come on with the black advertisement, because I know that sometimes we got issues about advertising our businesses and our product, and we need to do that. You can't just open up a place and just expect people to stop through and support you in 2021. There was a time when you could do stuff like that, but you got to advertise it. Social media is free, so you can if you're not advertising your business, then you're doing yourself an injustice.
Okay.
Hey, Joyce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I was
Continuing on.
What I was saying is that, I was curious as to how the Tulsa public school system was going to implement this House Bill 1775. So I found out that when I called to try to find out how to get information, because I want to see in black and white how this thing is going to happen. Because I'm concerned. My big concern is that there are teachers who are going to be afraid to teach, because if you and Daryl going to go through
Oh,
go
yes.
through the bill.
Yeah, we go
If
through it.
you
You
can
can see it.
lose your certification and your job, that's a real thing. And besides that, I, as a parent, as a grandparent with students in Tulsa public schools, high school and elementary school, I'm concerned about what it is they're how as far as I'm concerned, the stuff has been bad enough as it is. So how this is going to negatively impact where it goes in the future. But anyway, I found out that Tulsa Public Schools has a director of student and family support, and that person is Stephanie Andrews.
Does she have a phone
And
number?
her phone number is 918-746-6449. And let me repeat that, 918-746-6449. I talked with Miss Andrews, and I was asking her, if they had this document so we could see, because I want to see exactly how each school, or how the law was going to be handled, how it would impact teachers and students. And she told me that at some point they're going to have it online. That it costs $30,000 to print off things. So it'll be online. But if anyone needs a printed copy to be able to see how it's this law, or how Tulsa is going to implement the rules that came from the State Department of Education as a result of 1775, then you could call her and she would certainly see that you got a printed copy, because I said not all of our community have computers or printers, or have the ability to be able to uh, get this information or read it online or anything like that. So she told me that they're now doing a deep dive with the staff, and they're in the process of getting this thing. So it should be available by the time school opens. When is it, next week?
Well, that is nothing, because school starts next week.
Mhm.
And I've shared with you how many teachers have not even read the law, seen the law, and there are rules that are associated with the law. Now, when do they get that sheet and school starts Friday? Something's not right. And the law is enforced right now.
Mhm.
And you're absolutely right, because the things that we see here that they don't want taught in our classrooms, and they've got one that deals with higher education, and it says that they will not have an orientation that or requirement that presents any form of race or sex stereotyping, or based on the basis of race and sex shall be prohibited.
But there also, I've been saying teachers, but the way they are putting this thing down is teachers are any employee
Yes,
of the school system.
it is. And they say it stated right here in this is that
Hmm.
public schools in the state shall be prohibited from adopting programs utilizing textbooks, instructional materials, curriculum, classroom and science, orientation, interventions, counseling, that you cannot use and violate any of these 8. And if we have time, I don't think we do it.
we got enough time.
Okay. Because they say public schools in this state shall be prohibited from executing contracts or agreements with internal, external entities, persons, companies, or businesses to provide services, training, professional development, or any other assistance that includes, incorporates, or based on discriminatory practice identified in the section. What they've attempted to do here is to wrap themselves as being the victim,
Yeah.
and they're using civil rights acts that are in place now, statutes, and that's what they're saying that you will be in violation of if you did that. When in fact, these so-called 8 principles have nothing to do with what those established laws were there for.
Right.
So, meant to do. So what we've got here is, like, for instance, A, Once race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex, schools cannot push that concept.
But they push it already.
That's right.
Just in what is being taught.
That's right. And not being taught. So the question too, an individual by virtue of his or her race or sex is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously.
Now, how are you going to address conscious and unconscious
You can't.
behavior?
You can't.
There's no way to
That's right.
do that. So that's all up for interpretation by whoever feels they've
Right.
been victimized or their parent, which
Right.
is very unclear.
So here's one, and I'll skip here, that individuals. Wait a minute. Let me read one back here. Individuals should, if they feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race or sex, you will not teach that. Now, when are the teachers going to measure? How do you measure discomfort? And there are consequences here because teachers can lose their license.
And certification.
And the school could be what? They can lose their accreditation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who's following all this? The thing about this, it is to keep our children, our community, and anybody else who goes to class in the dark about the history. Because let me tell you what, none of these guys, the governor and the 32 individuals who signed this, I have never heard them raise in public the discomfort that our children are and have suffered for generations being taught in these schools that have alienated, right? Shamed them, make them feel like they were dumb,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Just demoralize them, were not culturally relevant, were not culturally responsive.
Refuse to acknowledge that there are different ways of knowing. You know, the whole idea that you assume that a child comes to school not knowing anything. But a lot of times now people are upset because kids come to school and they can't read when they come. You know, so, you know, it all goes back to the purpose of education. And the purpose of education has been to keep that power structure in place.
And it still is.
And it is still doing it's still doing that.
That's right. So this disarms us. That gives us another rabbit hole to chase down to, in essence, stop teaching us our history. Stop it. And there will be consequences if you don't. But we feel and have felt that this has been going on anyway.
Already.
Right now.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
Right
now.
Exactly.
Right now. They just put it in law form.
That's right.
And it's all about power. Controlling power. If I control your history, then I control your presence, and I sure enough control your future.
Well,
that's right. That's right.
That's right. So this is what that's about. And then just paint myself as I'm the victim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, the governor is, and they have not shown one iota of proof of who was raising up enough sand to say,
this is necessary.
This 1775 was necessary. They have not produced any of it. And then put it on an emergency track.
Yeah.
And an emergency means the one is to keep peace, health,
to mitigate harm,
and or safety. This does neither.
Yeah, and when when the documentary when the interview was on with Representative Goodwin and this Kevin West, he couldn't answer the question then. He didn't answer it then, and from what I understand, has not answered it on the floor. So I mean, we have got to
when we say
what can we do?
You better start questioning and doing.
Yeah, do what just Joyce gave you, but get in your schools. You need to know what your children
right
are being taught.
Parents really need to start going to PTA meetings and information, going out to the school board meetings, and
they need to be coming out there. But let me tell you, from what I understand, because I've been a volunteer at the school, and I was calling to find out if I was going to be able to get back into the school,
Oh,
because I've
me
been
too.
out of the school
Me too.
since the pandemic came up.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
I
right.
have been told that no volunteers or parents are going to be allowed inside the schools.
So they're cutting
So
all that out, right?
that's right.
Well, you got the COVID to use as a cushion for
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
aspect, So I,
Two,
I mean that's a
yeah,
whole nother
two or three
rubbish.
things. There is no CRT being taught in schools.
No,
There was no emergency. There was no proof that it was needed, right? So therefore, why do we have this? Again, a rabbit hole when we
parents.
should be looking at deeper issues. To what a brother here with us said, the question of police brutality. Okay,
But yeah,
yes,
the
and
redistricting that's going on, the
right,
gerrymandering that's going to be
going
going
on,
on that
all of that,
way, you know.
messing with your right to vote, all of it. All of it
For
is a
sure.
plan to check you and check us and keep us in line. It's all about power.
Systematic control.
Yes, sir.
Which has always been there,
Yeah.
By design.
But
So,
you know, we have, gotten pretty lax, we really have in our responsibilities. We talked about that earlier,
Mhm.
about the way things work. And of course this is a whole different time. And but if you don't learn from your past, if you don't learn from what your struggle
Well.
has been,
Mhm.
you are bound to stay in the midst of the
Mhm.
struggle. And we can candy coat it with getting getting materialistic gains, which a lot of us aren't getting a lot of that either.
that's true.
But you give yourself the illusion
That's true.
That's where you at.
that's where you at. It ain't.
Well,
My kids are grown. It don't affect me. My grandkids are doing okay over here. It don't affect me.
That is not our
But
legacy.
that
no,
has
it's not. It's not our culture.
It's not.
We're
no.
deep down culture.
We 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 we
We
we
Mhm.
be
black folks.
we be
Mhm.
we be. I be because you are. Because you are, I be.
Mhm.
I am because you are.
Mhm.
And because you are, I am. Those are the cultural
Right.
underpinnings of our survival. But
Mhm.
we've gotten so far away from those things.
I think personally here in 2021 that some of our younger people have become very selfish. Now, not all, because there's some good young people out here, but some of
Bobby,
them have been come to the point to whereas technology has taken over to the point to where that cell phone is their best friend and that's their form of communication. So they communicate
but
through
why?
the
But Bobby,
technology.
but Bobby, why is that? You got to
Well,
say
why is it? Because
the
as
society,
you move and you grow,
the
as you grow,
society.
if you move in society and you grow and your community grows and the world grows and exposed and now we on laptops and computers and all that.
And
Whereas
it's not.
it was a time no that we didn't have all that. We talked and communicated to one another.
Yeah.
Now you're in a technical age. They going to the moon. They doing all kinds of stuff,
But
and it's moving on out. So,
but the fact of the matter, I'm gonna tell you something. I've been watching the Olympics, and
mhm.
one of the things that has really touched me about the Olympics this time is that all of them melanated athletes,
Mm-hmm.
you saw them connecting, and you saw people rooting for the melanated people, regardless of where they were from. You
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see them win. To me, that says something, and some of that has to do with technology, because we have been so single focused and so closed in our vision until we haven't been able to connect ourselves.
Just a common conversation
Bobby,
is over a cup of coffee
yeah.
is not happening today like it once happened amongst our younger people.
That's right.
Now, as older people, I drink a cup every day.
That's right.
But I'm just saying that we don't socialize
Hell,
like
Bobby,
we did no
if,
more.
let's keep it real.
Well-
We ain't socializing as older people.
That's
Everybody,
right.
We're not socializing.
everybody has got their own silo and their own
True.
agenda.
That's what I
and-
said.
and-
That's why I
and
said
we-
selfishness.
and- right.
You know, people. That's why I said
Yeah.
everybody. It's all about me, and what I got,
No,
and
yeah.
me, and my
Well,
money, and
and-
my stuff.
but-
Anytime black people get $2 past bus fare, they feel like they didn't arrived and they got this and they got all this material stuff, but they can't get together and say, "Well, look here, I got mine, so I'm gonna show you how to get yours."
Well, you know,
but-
See that's the problem right there. We
But-
don't show each other how to obtain financial
Bobby,
wealth and growth
Bobby.
like they did back in Black Wall Street.
But Bobby,
well,
you keep saying Bobby. What?
yeah,
Bobby what?
Bobby. That's
and I
a.
I'm
there's
trying to
a-
Well, you done called my name 500 times. What you talking about?
I'm telling you that there's an illusion that you got yours, but you ain't got yours.
Yeah, I
mean,
understand.
but
I
I'm like
understand
that.
that. I'm with you on that
Yeah,
part.
no, but
It's the
that's-
illusion, but see, it's the technology and stuff that's changing. And us as
Well-
seniors, we got to understand that
But
the world is changing.
Let me tell you what.
Bobby,
It's changing.
Bobby, but what I'm saying,
hold
It's
tight.
changing.
It's
Trust
changing.
me.
It's changing.
It's changing.
But
The template is still there from where we come,
let me tell you,
but it's changing.
What we're facing is multi-layered and overlapping issues that have to deal with politics, our history.
It's everything.
Yeah, it is. That how we arrived at what we are doing and not doing today, we're really going to have to sit down and talk about how and interrogate how we got to where we are. Not just we as technologists, this and the other. There are more dimensions to this. than that.
for sure. And the thing about it,
And we're not operating in a vacuum
No, but that's-
because the system itself
well,
has given you more Kool-Aid to drink and more rabbit holes to go
But
down.
They show it on TV.
But-
They show it everywhere.
But the fact of the matter is, if you're looking at if we're going to look at the big picture, the fact of the matter is, we're dealing with globalization. And when Bill Clinton passed that bill back then, and these corporations start going into all these other countries and connecting with those elite folks in those countries, then this system got bigger than just here.
It was well on its
And
way before then.
It was
It was
well
way on its way.
before then.
But-
See, the world.
it was on its way before then.
Yes.
He codified it. He helped
Well, see,
codify
the thing about
And
it
so-
is, you got to understand that countries like China are way more technically advanced than the United States of America, and we're like maybe 5 to 10 years behind them with technology.
And
So
it's
therefore,
sad.
and it's sad, but because if you go over there, you're gonna see neon, all kinds of stuff going
But-
on, and they got all kinds of fabricated neon, just technology in general.
Well, look.
So you got a Samsung. Look here, you got Samsung phones over here, Sony this, Sony that. So you got to understand that
Bobby.
the connected. Bill Gates is one of the richest men in the United States.
in the world.
Well, in the world, you know.
But-
So you have to understand the changing of the guards
But the
that's
fact-
taking place.
The fact of the matter is,
You have to
that-
accept it.
the fact of the matter is that those connections have been made, and we, in our quest to bust unions, sent our factory stuff to China and created this whole thing that we're dealing with right now. And in fact, people aren't looking at what's happening, but this country has been sending China all of its plastic and
Forever.
and all this other stuff. The what do you call it? The recyclables. But China's sending this stuff back.
Well, here's the
China is not.
they're-
China hasn't been right by the United States in a long time because they suck. They suck up all the United States resources.
Wait a minute now. Look.
And what they do is
This
they
United States
they
is
manufacture a lot of goods in China that we buy. We buy everything that you look around is made in China,
But
made in
Bobby,
China, made in China,
Bobby,
and it's just made over there.
Bobby. you closed down your factories. You sent your, not only did you close your factories down, you physically sent the factory to China and
And then
other.
you know why?
And
You know why?
wait a minute,
Miss Joyce, listen to me now. Hear me out.
you shouting in my ear.
Okay, the reason what you saying, Bobby. Okay, now the reason is Bobby. You know, the reason is the fact is that their manufacturing process is a lot faster and quicker than ours over here. So when we gave up the factories over here and we moved them to China, we could get cheap manufactured goods, and export and import became a thing to whereas, all right, China's manufacturing all of our stuff. And so now we can just sell them over here in the United States. All these, like I said earlier, Samsung, Sony, Hitachi,
Right.
all of them,
Well,
Mayachi,
Okay.
all of that comes from China.
But tying it back in.
You are looking at not us.
Yeah, not us.
Well, listen to what I've got to say.
I agree.
We have to start with not necessarily what's happening on the outside, which impacts how we think and what happens to us. But the question becomes, we need to have another conversation about how did we lose our way?
Yeah.
How did we lose our way?
Black people didn't do it.
How do we?
White society did that.
Hey, look.
White society did it.
Before you draw that conclusion, we do have people out here that are fighting. And you're right, people in control, but they don't control everything absolutely.
No, they don't. Not 100%.
We have.
I'll agree. Not 100%. Not 100%.
We have lost our North Star. Where are we going? We mix and match what they do in capitalism, and we mix and match some things that we think will help the collective.
But
the fact of the matter is that why are we having this conversation today? Because it's not because of China.
No, it's not
because of plastics. It's fundamental to our legacy that we have not come together as kindred spirits to talk about where we need to be going.
And as it relates to technology, you know, I look at this technology to the extent that if you just take that whole killing of
George Floyd.
No, I'll take it back further. I'll take it back to Mike Brown, which
right.
Might I add, today is the anniversary of the murder of Mike Brown in Ferguson. It was technology that allowed us to shoot that thing across the world. And when it was shot across the world, our kindred spirits, our people everywhere were start looking at what was happening with them. And now technology did that. And I'm not talking about it being a total thing.
Yeah.
But the idea that we have to reestablish a universal consciousness among each other.
That's what I'm talking about. You have to define. You have to define
because
you have to.
Daryl, you like you said, when you look at some of these corporate entities and so forth, well, you got a couple of black folk on them things.
Yes, neocolonialism.
What? Yes, for sure.
For sure.
So what are they saying? We got folks in the State House. You know what
we do.
What are they saying? And what are they doing? We got people in education. We got people in neighborhoods that are not. Look, we got people in these churches that aren't. But we have got to get back to the whole concept of we.
But the thing I say about the we is I agree with what you're saying. I'm not defending the we. But as we grow in the world, technology is steadily growing with us. And the thing about it, if we don't learn how to accept it, I'm a senior right now.
To utilize
wait. Yeah, I'm a senior right now. I got grandkids and grandbabies. A lot of my daddies and them friends are dead and gone, and they done moved on out of here. And as we move on out of here, the technology consistently moves on up. Therefore the culture of us not having the we You know what I mean?
Bobby, I'm gonna tell you.
Become. Look here. I
That's
deal.
right. You're right. And
I deal with a lot of young people.
let me tell you, Bobby. I was at my daughter and son-in-law's house.
Mm-hmm.
My 1-year-old grandson went in my purse and got my phone and was trying to operate it. He'd been watching folks with the phone. I tried to give him a toy phone. Well, you know how they buy the babies the things
Right,
that look
right,
like
right.
he at 1 years old. I mean, he was one. When was he born? I guess in June the 30th.
Mm-hmm.
He at 1 years old knew the difference between that toy phone
And the real phone.
and the real phone.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know when we were kids,
Please.
It's always going to be that way.
Yeah.
But even with technology has been put in the context of how we're using it for going where we need to go. We haven't defined that.
No.
We haven't made a demand. We have not formulated a North Star that says this is the kind of world that we want and this is what we're struggling around.
And you this is what we demand.
But we cannot just be in the abstract. We have to unite and commit to a vision, a future picture for what we want for our community in all its various aspects. We cannot just say, well, we got technology. We do, and it'll put out there and politicize people. But the question is
dangerous.
But the thing about
the technology is very dangerous,
particularly if you don't control
humanistic society.
If you don't control it. But like anything else,
it's out of control already.
But excuse me, anything else, you can figure out how to use it, just like our ancestors did.
I'm a very technical senior. I have more technical knowledge than most people in my generation. And the only reason I got that is through young people.
Yes.
Learning from the youth and the young. But at the same time, I got the history of the culture of the ones who came before me. Mm-hmm. So, and I realized, I see when my son trading them, Daddy, you need to do this. This is what's going on. Some of these young people sit right next to each other and text each other.
Why is that?
You know what I mean?
Why is that?
Because the technology has gotten them brainwashed to be able to utilize it in not what I call a positive way. It's not in a positive way.
Well, Bobby, you have to take this thing all the way back, as we take it back to this HR 1775 and everything else. This society has taught us from the very beginning. It has ingrained in us from the very beginning that we should be individuals, which was contraindicative of what our culture has been. So when you start talking about that deal,
I'm gonna tell y'all something. You won't leave home without your cell phone. You will not just leave your cell phone plugged up and go on about your regular day because you feel, I ain't got my cell phone.
Well,
and there was a time in the community where that didn't even matter.
Well, here's the thing.
They had no reference of anything.
But they used to have phone booths too. They ain't got them no more.
They didn't have. You know what? When they was in that barber shop and they used to be talking, the men didn't have no cell phones. They had conversation.
I'm going beyond cell phones. I'm going beyond. I'm trying to go beyond.
That's what I'm telling you about the technology.
Yeah, but technology again,
has ruined people.
But we can use it.
People have.
You got to use it. You got to use it for good.
Hold tight.
You have to use it for good.
But you have to know how to use it, where to use it, and what end do you have in mind for it. Because if not, it just becomes a gadget.
You know what? Just becomes a gadget. You know what the biggest industry in the world is? The biggest industry in the world is porno.
Is that an industry?
Porno is an industry.
Okay.
It's the biggest industry. We did our research, and it's the biggest industry globally around the world. Now,
what does that mean for us?
What that means is people are using that kind of stuff for bad.
Yes.
And I feel like it's terrible.
Well,
you know what I mean?
You're not going to use that.
I'm just saying, certain people are not going to even go there. But these youth and young people, they go to sites like that. They do TikTok and they do all of these different different platforms and stuff. They utilize that. And as they grow and we die off, they are in a whole nother world.
But Bobby, the fact of the matter is that you got a bunch of old folks been in porn long. They just had the Playboy
Well, I
magazine
understand that.
and,
I understand that
all
one
them
too.
things that they
But
did.
not at the level, not at the
Yeah.
level that it is right
That
now.
they
I'm gonna
Not
tell you
at the
what.
level that it is right now.
There are a lot of signs and symptoms out there.
Oh my goodness!
But
Not
the thing,
at the level that it is.
about it is, you cannot boil the ocean.
No.
You cannot deal with every one of them.
Okay.
There is a root cause for what happened, and we need to find that out. But we have not interrogated, and I mean interrogated, our mindset about how we view the world and walk through this world, because we have.
You haven't even defined what the world is.
Hey, that has to be done.
You know,
I'm not saying leave it out, but there has to be that very rudimentary, very basic kind of discussion. That don't mean you go lock yourself up in a closet.
No.
You can't do that. But we cannot tutor our way out of this school system. We can't tutor our way out. We need tutors. The question is, we have to tutor. I'm a tutor, but I'm not just tutoring because they got a pipeline coming with more. What is the root cause of this? Why can't you teach our kids how to learn? You can't. You don't know. Miseducation.
The question for me is, why are we dependent on them to teach our kids?
We shouldn't.
And we have to engage ourselves to the point where we know that there are vicious attacks on our ability to learn. They don't need for you to know how to operate their equipment. Hell, the equipment's in China. You know, you pick up the phone, somebody calling, you calling about some issue or something. You got somebody in Bangladesh that you're talking to.
That's true.
Everything is global now.
And
so
people,
I say that.
You know,
I say that to say that there's no need for them to have us educated.
You know,
they don't.
People today have a choice of what they want to do. You have a choice technology. You can either listen to this radio station that you're listening to right now, or you can go to Sirius FM, Sirius FM, or you can just people got choices now.
And
but Bobby, they've always had choices.
No. We ain't always had black people. We ain't never had those kind of technical choices. We haven't always had those.
So
I guess I grew up in a city where there were multiple choices.
You didn't have. Well, listen. We didn't have Facebook, Instagram, all of that kind of stuff right there when we were coming up. We didn't have none of that. We had one or two little radio stations that we listened to, and that was it.
So let me just say this: Joyce is absolutely right. We cannot depend on the folks that created the problem to get us out of this problem.
No, we can't.
But the thing about it is, we are, because we're not in a position right now to do that. But there are alternatives, like we talked about, starting those leadership schools and doing that kind of thing to teach our children our legacy, our traditions, and all of that.
They are.
And
because
who they are.
We are in a system, first of all, as we talk about testing and all those things are systems to exclude. So this system does not recognize that there are different ways of knowing.
On purpose, by design.
By design.
It's all by design.
It's by design. So as we get back into this 1775 and critical race and the need, actually, there's a real need for us to recognize the need for critical race activism.
That's right.
It started in the law schools, moved out into education and in different areas. We have got to take the time, like we're having this dialogue here, but we need to kind of fine tune it to focus, to get a focus, and to go from there. Because
I don't feel like there's no one right answer. You know what I mean? I think people in our communities are highly opinionated about what we need to do. But until we get together like those organizations back in the civil rights movement, how they got together and they formulated which way to go and which way to drive, then we all got a lot of individual opinions. of what needs to go down.
So the challenge is to break down those silos and how
those
we
silos
do
and stuff.
Yeah, but you got to recognize
how do we do what we need to do? Which way? What's best for us?
Because a lot of us are beating our own people down to the white meat.
We do it all the time.
All the time.
Them crabs in the bucket.
But the thing about that is, is that we understand there are different gradations or whatever you want to talk about in our community.
There's so much stuff going on, and just like we talk, we never look at the I go back to the Wizard of Oz. We never go back to the wizard behind the curtain.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, that's what I'm saying. You got to. That's what I'm talking about.
You've got to do that. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is, there are different ways of knowing. And we have to recognize that there are different ways of knowing.
Because everybody's not going to always agree on which way, how to get there.
Well, do you want to be around somebody that agrees with you all the time?
No, I don't. I really don't. I understand. I got a radio station. I do this all the time. Yeah, and I don't agree with everybody, and everybody don't always agree with me and my methodology, and they're entitled to that. I don't. I don't hurt nobody for it.
But there are different ways of knowing. And we have to respect that there are. But there also ought to be the ability to question.
For sure.
And when you question, you have to understand that you have a right to question. And we allow things to happen, and we don't really question. And this, like I said in calling this lady today.
Yeah.
How is this going?
What's her number again? What's her name and the number?
Her name is Stephanie Andrews. She's the Director of Student and Family Support. Her number is 918-746-6449.
Now people need to call her, don't
they? Need to call and find out how this is going to impact them, and not only to have somebody verbalize what's going to happen, let her know you need to see it in black and white. You need to be able to see it. She needs to be able to send it to you on the computer, fine. But you need for your child, when they come home from school, to bring you something to help you to understand, to see what it is that, how this law is going to impact their education, And we as parents, grandparents, community people need to be examining this also. Because
how do we engage the seniors more so to get out and get involved and to pass this information down? Because I noticed that a lot of my classmates and a lot of my friends who are around my age just stay at home and they don't engage.
But they probably stayed at home when they was younger.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. Were they engaged?
No, because the community was bigger and they were out there. We had more to offer in the community, so they were out and about doing stuff. But they wouldn't. You had more to engage in. You had a lot of organizations and stuff.
Well, Bobby, have you asked them
to
come share that?
Look. Okay. I talked to I'm blue in the face.
Did you tell them how important it is?
They already know because I already told them.
So they've got another priority.
I'm like this. There's a fear of seniors. There's a fear of seniors in our community of not wanting to get out. I mean, when the sun go down, they lock the doors and they in the house.
Okay.
Where it used to be a time when the sun went down, you could still go to the grocery store or go wherever you wanted to go get some gas and stuff. But there's a fear because of they're thinking of crime and things of that nature that's taking place out there.
Well, I was talking. Excuse me, sis. I was talking more about tapping that knowledge.
I tap knowledge here every day. Every time I come on the show, I'm sharing knowledge.
No, I'm talking about from the older.
Most of my audience is older.
Okay.
Most of my listening audience are older people. I ain't got them little young babies. A lot of them, they listening to hip hop and all of that kind of stuff. Most of my audience that are listening to us right now are old. It's an older audience. I'm gonna say maybe from 45 on up.
Okay.
On up like that.
We given the fact that we're on new ground because we're dealing with this whole COVID the
COVID is-
delta, the
Woo.
lambda, the whatever
Whatever it is.
ideations of it that exists. So that's negatively impacting things. The people are not meeting in the churches the way they were. I think they were just now starting to go back now.
To the
people
churches?
Yeah, now the people are saying that they're gonna have to start looking at Zooming in the church.
Oh, yeah.
And
Back to
so
that
forth.
again, huh?
So I say that to say it's a struggle, and it's a constant struggle, and it's one when you look at it from the whole, it's an it's it's overwhelming. It's too much, but you have to pick out that small thing that you can do, that you're comfortable doing. Now, for me, as I look at addressing this and the history and so forth, I say start with your family. You know, our babies don't even know the significance of their own families. You know, you
Mhm.
can start there and then bring in.
You brought up
another.
a good point. You brought up the point. You brought up the best point. It's all about starting with the family.
Yeah.
And the family.
Mm-hmm.
You know how families used to be families?
Yes.
They don't know how, some of them don't know how to be families anymore.
Oh no, they're not speaking because everybody's mad because somebody said something or did something or like
Miss
you.
Joyce, you brought up a great point. It's the family.
But,
You know, it's all about the family.
it is. Bobby,
It's about them babies and families and mothers and fathers.
You know,
that's what it's about.
I want to put out a clarion call right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you have some level of consciousness to say something has got to change, because our children and our community are being ground to dust.
Yeah, they are.
And after a while, North Side will not be the North Side. And we have to look and see. You're not going to agree with everything, but you have to say, well, where do we start? Where do I begin to reach out? Because you cannot go into a struggle if you haven't built some level of trust and commitment to what we're trying to do. Yeah. That's tough work. It is different than when we saw colored only, white only. Oh, them signs got to come down. Mm-hmm. It's way more insidious than that. Yeah. So to be out here doing that activist role has qualitatively changed since that day. I listened to your radio station, Martin Luther King, his day weekend. Mm-hmm. And Martin Luther King was asked by I guess it was a commentator, and he said, well, what is next? And what about, going into some of the things that you had done in the past? He said, look, sitting in the front of the bus. And he also said, going into these lunchroom counters, that time has passed. Mm-hmm. We cannot struggle that way. And it is changing. He began to change to understand that it's not a question of civil rights during the Poor People's Campaign when he pulled it together in 1967. It is a question of human rights. Mm-hmm. And Malcolm X and Malik Shabazz knew that back when he first started, way back in the early 60s, that he was saying, take this thing to the United Nations. It was a question of human rights. Well, what exactly does that mean? Look, we cannot come out here and sit in a room and not have a purpose for what we're trying to do, which means no one has all the answers. If you do, you need to let us know immediately. Call the radio station and let us talk to you. Because generally speaking, those individuals who think they have all the answers are intellectual derelicts. You have become reactionary. You're not listening to nobody. You know everything, etc.
And in addition to that, let me add, a lot of us function to the fact, to the way of thinking that the enemy of my enemy, the friend of my enemy, or the enemy of my
what?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Now I know that sounds deep.
That sounds counterintuitive.
However, that ain't never been the case.
No.
It has never been the case. And we have to get past some of this stuff. It's time out for
it
some.
Is. And I'm telling you.
And not all money is good money.
That's true.
Grandma used to say that all the time.
You need
not all money is good money. But we need to focus on our children. And if our children don't survive and thrive, neither will we. And we are a we. We are not made to function independently. We must pull together. And it doesn't have to be on a macro level. In fact, when I was growing up, I can remember my people saying, "You don't need everybody in the room. You don't need everybody in the room. You can 4 or 5 people can get some things done, and you can start with small groups and then make connections to get things done. Because 1775, y'all, is about to put us back further than what
Right.
than what we were, and we're already back because this we've been fighting with the school system for a long time that has not addressed the needs of our children. But it's time out for that too. We have got to, and you need to find the cubes on Facebook or on email. We've got to, we have an idea that if we can get enough people together in different spots, that we can start uh, an after school program, Saturday school, or something that we can start working with our babies to get them. And babies,
right.
I'm talking about the small ones up
You
to
know
the
what? I
to the
wish.
high and young 20
Right,
year
right.
olds,
I wish
and
we had a
older than
school.
that.
I wish we had a black school that we just talked. We taught even on a Saturday for a few hours. That Black history was taught.
Yes.
But that's what
precisely what we're talking
that's
about.
what we're talking about, because we have plenty of resources.
Yeah, we
And
got plenty of,
and
and speakers could
and
come and people could just
and
teach our
Yeah,
kids.
more like a
and we
leadership
got
school.
A leadership school.
we have programs. We have, I mean,
Why come we can't get that?
we
can.
have places. We have the Mabee Center. We have the Lacey Parks.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have churches.
Yes.
You know, if they're
Willing
interested.
to let that
We
happen.
have the library.
Mhm.
You know, but if you are willing to engage in that type of activity, we need you to make contact with us at
How can they make
Yes.
contact? What's the address of our phone numbers?
Well, let me say this. Yes, we'll give you one.
Okay.
The issue here too is that a lot of us we walk in everybody's shoes and different people's shoes. You're trying to work 2 jobs. You're the only breadwinner. But those of us, just do what you can, but be sure to look out after your babies.
yeah.
And we can help you out. The bottom line here is that if we don't stop operating in our small silos, we're going to die in those silos.
Yeah.
Mm.
So as it relates
Yes.
to a phone number,
Yes.
now, if you are don't call me with no crap. Let me tell you, I ain't the one.
Well, yeah, you ain't the one for that one. I know
ain't
that.
the one for that
Yeah.
one.
You know.
But if you are truly interested
Yes.
in engaging and getting involved in setting up something to help our babies with their task of finding out who we are, who they are, and building upon that rock, you can reach me at 918-557-8580.
Don't
Now,
call
like
it no mess.
don't
Yeah.
call me with no silly
Listen.
stuff. Now I'm
Well,
telling you, because I'm
Give
not
them
the
that
one for
number.
that.
Give them that number again.
Yeah, just one more time.
918-557-8580, because we need you, and time is of the essence.
It is.
Time is of the essence. It's time out for us, depending on other folks, to teach our babies about who we are. And our idea at Cubes is that we need a program for the young preschool kids on up, and old folk too,
That's
because
right.
a lot of us
Well-
don't know who we are, or why we are, or where we are, as far
Yeah,
as
they
that's
don't.
going.
And if you're just interested in understanding and you want to stand up and talk truth to power, and you want to be an advocate, we got to talk. We really
You
have
to
to
have
talk
a conversation.
because the same thing, we laugh and joke and we say, well, we keep doing the same thing over and over, getting the same results, and everybody laugh.
Yeah.
But the thing that I said, and Joyce has heard me say it before, same guy, Einstein, who said that, he said this: you can't use the same thinking that created the problem to get you out of this problem. So we got some work to do on ourselves, for ourselves. A lot of times we don't have that higher calling for education, freedom for literacy, literacy for freedom. Man, you say that to some folks, well, what are you talking about? I'm free. Or freedom, but liberation. We still are not liberated.
No.
We still are not. We still are not. You looked at all the things that happened 50 years ago with the Kerner report. It's still with us.
Yeah.
The family's not building up any wealth.
And
we got more individuals in the pipeline to prison and making less money.
And as I started out earlier talking about Black August, Black August was a movement that started inside of the prison. With the, when those incarcerated folks could get books from the library, because they're not able to get these books anymore. They've cut out all of that. But when they begin to recognize and address issues of liberation and how they came to be,
a higher calling for living,
a higher call.
Yeah, a collective.
This is Black August, y'all.
That's right.
And it's time for us to engage. It's time for us to engage. It's time. I'm so sick of talking. I don't know what to do.
Man, aren't you so sick of talking? It frustrates you.
I am so sick of. I am so sick of hearing people talk about each other.
It's a lot of hate out there.
I am so
it is a lot of hate.
Sick. I am so sick of folks who want to be the onlyest one in the room. I am, I had a person tell me, I'm going to tell y'all, this organization, and I ain't going to call their name on the radio, but I was involved with a culture committee on this with this group. And I asked them, I said, I need some help. For years, I have been trying to understand, and this is not to put any shade on the John Hope Franklin Reconciliation Program, but for years, I have been trying to I've asked several of the directors that they've had, what are we expected to reconcile ourselves to? And nobody has been able to
answer that
question. But the person in this other organization told me, well, I am a proud member, and I am very protective. And if you want to know about what you're reconciling yourself to, you need to ask. And this was before they took office. Vice President Kamala Harris and President-elect Joe Biden about what we're reconciling ourselves to, which that's a whole nother discussion. We won't even go there. But I told that person, well, my nephew is closely involved with that process. So if I wanted to know that, I'd just call up and ask him that. But I'm asking about right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, what are we reconciling ourselves to? Because remember, even Nelson Mandela said, you can't have reconciliation without having truth. And so
I agree.
So we have, I say that to say, in all sincerity, ain't none of these organizations perfect. Ain't none of our families. I ain't perfect. You ain't perfect. Nobody's perfect.
That's right.
But we have got to come together some kind of way.
A lot of it is we have passion. And that passion for our people for change is still instilled in some of us more than it is others.
That's when you need to have an understanding of your history.
History.
See, because I thought the revolution had happened in 1968. I'm telling you, insurrections every time you turn on in these cities. Chicago blew up.
DC,
with the riot of the police.
Watts,
with the
police.
Detroit,
Man, it was crazy.
And we thought it was there. But when we learned that the powers that be didn't see it as that, because they were sitting there and they're just seeing people scrambling around and being disruptive. Never got worried.
No,
Because
what you hear is they're looting, just like
Yeah.
they use that
That's right.
same thing now. They're looting.
That's right. So the thing about it is, no, we weren't in a revolution. We were in an uprising that politicized a lot of people and turned a lot of people away to the shiny objects that this system offers and say, well, I did my time. What we have to understand is that you cannot leapfrog your consciousness that you have at one time and say, well, we just going to do what we need to do, but you're not prepared to do it. It's not the right time. Strategically, and say, oh man, come on, just tell me what to do. No, because if you don't understand what to do, you may hurt me and don't even realize it, or I look around and you're gone. We have some things that are on our plate that are not, and we don't want to be comparing what we're against and what some of those folks in sure enough the movement that were being killed and water hosed and all of that. We have different homework to do, but the assignment is still the same.
Well,
and you have to be able to strategically think, and you got to take in a lot of different variables that are happening out here. But that doesn't mean you sit around and have paralysis of analysis. You have to do that through actually struggling. But you struggle and you take on what you can based upon where your consciousness is. You can't talk about, well, we're going to be Black Panthers. Well, okay, that's good if that's where your consciousness is. But where we can't do it on our own. We can't do it on, the few of us, we can't do it.
Well, no, and you have to understand that Jim Crow is now James Crow Esquire. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that has evolved too, and if you're interested in doing something, in engaging, we really need to talk.
We really do.
And we need to talk for a minute, but we're about action now.
That's right.
Yeah, you gotta put some action in whatever you do.
I am so sick of folks talking.
I'm so sick. Me too.
I am sick of meetings and no action.
We need some economic growth to take place in our community.
Well, it only happens if we need economic growth.
Yeah, we do.
We can be an entrepreneur, but we don't need entrepreneurs that don't have a consciousness about paying back and giving back.
Right.
We don't need you to be the same thing we've already got.
We don't need
them. That's all I'm saying. The context, if I had an economic agenda, it wouldn't be that we have all these individual entrepreneurs getting money, et cetera. We're talking about how we come as a collective and raise up, and the same thing with schools.
Right.
We have to do the same thing with our schools.
They say about schools, they say, if you're not building any schools in your community, then your community is not growing.
Well,
Bobby, so if you're not building those schools, so you're not multiplying. They say that the African American race is smithering, is going down.
But you know,
so I hear these stats and stuff like that, and Black organizations talking about this kind of stuff. How 51% of males, young Black men, don't have children. 68% of Black males are incarcerated in prisons. 80% of African American females are overweight. So you hear all these stats and all of this stuff
and you
going
know what
on.
And you get overwhelmed with all of that.
But
it's put out there to stop you.
So you have to have the right context, though, Bobby. Because the question is,
this is coming from Black people.
Oh, got no problem with
that.
I
get my information from Black because I don't look at the idiot box.
That's quite all right. But the point that I'm making is you need to know why that's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
And why is it happening?
Yes,
like
sir.
That?
Because if you don't know why it's happening, what are you fighting?
Mm-hmm.
You get taken down.
Well, I blame it on the system, systematic control.
Well,
it's partly.
It's
systematic. It's by design, systematic control.
Bobby, the cotton done been picked.
They still trying to get us to pick cotton.
The cotton. They don't need you to pick.
You know what I mean? You ain't out in the fields, but you picking it some other kind of way now.
They need you to pick no daggone cotton.
They need you to pick some different kind of cotton.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, our work is cut out for us. We have to get back to who we are. We have to know who we are. And that goes all the way back to knowing what
And
grandma's name is.
some of us don't
You
know our
and
work.
some of us don't know who we are.
We don't know our work.
Some of us don't know what grandma's name is.
Nope.
You know,
Cameron don't know none of that.
And you have to take it back to basic things, just like that. You know, some kids don't even know what mama's real name is or daddy's real name is. You know
Grandparents, or anything.
You
they
know,
have no, and they have no desire, a lot of them, to even know until you break them down and tell them. You know,
but
till you break them down and tell them.
But
oh, that was Grandpa Lee. I didn't know. So he was married to who was he married to? You know, so you have to break down and tell them.
But we have to engage. You know, because you know, back in the day, it was grandma who was keeping the kids and furthering the culture along.
They were doing the nurturing.
Yeah, while folks were working, you know, that's how the information was passed. But then, you know, when we separate ourselves, you know, we lose that and we don't even recognize what it is we've lost. You know what I mean?
We've lost a lot.
So, I mean, we have got to get folks, if you're interested in getting some things going, we have really got to get busy in reclaiming
that family structure has been broken.
Reclaiming our our family and redefining, because you know, we not only had immediate family, we had extended family that included folks that were blood or not blood, you know, and that's the way we function, and our orientation has changed. It's been taken, we've allowed it to be taken away from us. So there's some basic things that we have to get back to, starting with taking care of our own, us and our own.
That's true.
Us and our own. See, I can't love you and I can't help you if I can't do something to help myself, like we were talking about when the program started. If I am not getting up, taking deep breaths in the morning and focusing my thoughts first thing in the morning and thinking about being thankful that I woke up, first of all.
Breathing, huh?
Hey, the fact that I'm breathing and the fact that I can still be vertical. You know, if I am not recognizing my ancestors, and by ancestors, I'm talking about my mom and daddy are both gone. My aunts and grandparents, you know, I got one aunt left, you know, and all of that's important. All of that. If I can't be grateful for those types of things, if I can't focus myself on what it is I want to accomplish in this here day. Now, for me, every day I want to learn something new, something that I did not know. If I cannot establish that routine for myself, if I cannot get my lazy self up and decide that I'm going to get up and I'm getting out in them streets or on that track or on Riverside or at the Greenwood water retention or somewhere, if I'm not getting up and physically moving this body, walking, doing some type of exercise, if I cannot commit to doing those basic things to make me better,
right,
there's no way that I can look at helping somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, and that's important stuff that in the past has been instilled in us that has gotten away, that we have got to pull back.
But a lot of folks haven't had that instilled in them. I'm 73 years old. I know some people in their 50s that got that. But the point of the matter is that we're going to have to look at the individual and the collective.
Yeah.
We have to. When we start strategizing what we need to do, we have to take that into account.
Right.
But there's so many signs and symptoms of what is wrong with this that we have to be strategic in how we focus. This is beyond yourself. And I'm talking about when you start talking about speaking truth to power,
Right, truth
to
to power.
those who are there.
Yeah.
Sister.
So anyway, I just want to say this: we coming to the end of the show. We ain't got but a couple more minutes left over. So give us some numbers again and some information how people can get in touch.
Okay. Well, one, I thought I had changed this, and I did have it with me, and it's an email address for us.
Do you have? You don't have it?
I've got it right here.
Okay, give out the email address, and Miss Joyce, you can give out your phone number again.
Okay. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
This is our email address: CUBES87 COMM at yahoo.com.
Boy, that's a weird one right there, huh?
Boy,
Man, that ain't easy at all.
Yeah,
but you know, you guys go back and listen to the show and stuff like that. First of all, I want to thank you guys for coming out, taking time out your busy schedule to talk about all of these issues. Now, we talked about a lot of stuff.
We talked
a lot of stuff, and good pertinent information that we need in our community. We're going to come back and do this again. So I can have Miss Joyce, I can have you fuss me out. Bobby. You know what I mean? But it's all fun in the neighborhood. I respect. But we're going to do that. We're going to come back and talk about this because we need to discuss more of the stuff like here. And our people need to hear it.
Right.
They need to really hear this information right here.
That's right.
So once again, thank you guys for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having us.
And hey, we're going to do it again, okay?
Okay, that'll
All
work.
right.
All right, you're on the Bobby Eaton Show where we tell our stories our way. We are taking donations here. 1533 North Norfolk. Got a donation bucket over here inside the building. Stop by, drop off something for these Juice Radio show, and so we can do a lot of our stuff. We're more than a radio station. We are community induced. You're right here. And we believe in our community and supporting our community. And we tell our stories our way. And that's what we do. Eat music too at gmail.com. EATON music too at gmail.com. Here's my number. I'm going to give out my personal phone number. 832-443-9499. Again, that number is 832-443-9499. If you want to advertise here on KBOB 89.9, get in touch with us. A lot of times our black businesses just don't advertise, and people out of sight, out of mind. That's what they say. So we can hook you up. We got a recording studio. We can cut your commercials. We can do everything if you just email us and let us know that you need the help. So I wanted to say thank you for listening. Hey, great show, fantastic show. And it's on Facebook, 89.9. It's also on a variety of different platforms here. And all you got to do is just, tune into it and see what's going on. And you can be a part of that. All right. Till the next time. Let me see. Let me get my little music up. Till the next time. Have a good one.